What if you're not actually tired? What if you're just unmotivated because nothing you do feels real anymore? What if it's not your body that's heavy? What if it's your spirit that's worn out? You wake up but you're not awake. You move through the day but nothing moves you. You sleep but never feel rested. You eat but never feel full. You scroll but never feel seen. You talk but nobody hears you. You laugh but it's not coming from your gut. It's just muscle memory, habit, survival. You're surviving what though? A job that drains you. A home that's just four walls. A routine that numbs instead of heals. Maybe that's why you don't feel alive. Not because you're lazy. Not because you're weak. But because you've been starving for something real. And everything around you is processed, filtered, modified. Even your emotions feel secondhand. You're not feeling them fresh. You're reacting to reactions. Trying to heal from echoes. You weren't built for this kind of life. To wake up with your soul in airplane mode. To be reachable by everyone but yourself. To check your phone before you check in with your heart. You weren't built to binge dopamine and call it joy. To drown out the silence and call it peace. To fake being okay and call it strength. When did you last feel clear? Not busy. Not distracted. Not functional. But clear. When did you last cry without shame? When did you last sit in stillness without panic? When did you last hear your own thoughts and not run from them? Your body's not broken. It's communicating. Whispers first, then screams. Fatigue is a message. So is brain fog. So is apathy. They're not symptoms to fix. They're signals to feel. You don't need another productivity hack. You need a reason to want to wake up again. Not an alarm. A calling. Something that doesn't demand from you, but speaks to you. Not something that exhausts your willpower, but awakens your soul power. You need connection, not just communication. You need meaning, not just motion. You need rest, not just sleep. You need purpose, not just performance. So ask yourself, what's missing? Not in your schedule, but in your spirit. Not in your habits, but in your hunger. Not in your time, but in your truth. Because until you feed the real part of you, you'll always feel tired, even when you're fully rested. Not because your body's broken, but because your soul is starving. What if you're not overwhelmed because of how much you have to do? What if you're overwhelmed because of how little any of it means to you? What if it's not burnout, but emptiness wearing a costume? What if your brain isn't foggy because it's broken, but because it's bored of pretending everything's fine? You keep asking yourself, why am I like this? Why can't I stay focused? Why do I always feel behind? Why does everything feel like pressure? Even the smallest task. Even the things you used to enjoy. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe your mind is just tired of pretending to be okay in a world that never asked how you are in the first place. You were told to be productive, but never taught how to feel fulfilled. You were told to stay busy, but never shown how to be still. You mastered the art of coping, masking, functioning, but surviving is not the same as living. You keep forcing yourself to care about deadlines, metrics, expectations, but you're losing your ability to care about yourself. And deep down, you know it. You know this isn't just exhaustion. This is misalignment. You're living a life that doesn't match your inner truth. You're chasing goals that don't feed your soul. You're stuck in loops that numb more than they heal. You try to be grateful because others have it worse. But gratitude without alignment becomes guilt. And guilt is not growth. It's just another way to silence yourself. You try to push through, drink more coffee, sleep less, work harder. But the more you override your signals, the further you drift from your center. And the truth is, you don't need to push. You need to pause. You don't need more hustle. You need more honesty. You don't need to change your routine. You need to change what you're running from. Because no amount of discipline can save you from a life that disconnects you from who you are. So sit with this. Where did you last abandon yourself? What part of you is still waiting to be chosen? What dream did you shelf because the world called it unrealistic? What emotion did you bury because it didn't fit the narrative? You're not here to fit in. You're here to feel, to live, to burn with meaning, not melt into monotony. And no, you're not lazy. You're just finally waking up to what's not real, to what's not worth your energy, to what's not your truth. That ache you feel, that heaviness, it's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's your soul reminding you, this isn't the life you came here to live. What if you're not tired because you're weak? What if you're tired because you're carrying a life that was never yours to begin with? What if the weight isn't just the workload, but the pretending, the smiling, the showing up like it doesn't hurt? What if the real burnout comes from betraying yourself every single day just to belong, just to keep the peace, just to not disappoint anyone but yourself? What if you don't need more motivation? What if you need more meaning? What if the problem isn't your willpower, but your why? You keep asking yourself, why am I so drained all the time? Why do I feel numb even when things are going right? Why do I snap at small things? Why does my body feel tense when I open my laptop? Maybe your body isn't malfunctioning. Maybe it's trying to send a message your mind keeps muting. You weren't made to run on pressure alone. You weren't built to serve a life that doesn't serve you back. You keep pushing through the tiredness, through the doubt, through the dread. But what if it's not strength anymore? What if it's self-abandonment? What if the most dangerous thing isn't giving up, but continuing to give your all to what doesn't nourish you? You scroll for inspiration, looking for that one quote to fix you, but no words will fix what your soul needs to feel. Rest is not a reward. Joy is not a distraction. Peace is not laziness. You don't need to earn stillness. You just need to remember who you are when the world isn't looking. Ask yourself, who would I be if I wasn't proving anything? What would I love if I wasn't so scared of being judged for it? What would I let go of if I knew my worth wouldn't change? You're not behind. You're just buried. Under expectations. Under roles. Under layers of who you were told to be. And maybe the reason nothing feels like enough is because you were never supposed to chase enoughness. You were supposed to return to your essence. So breathe. Take your hands off the wheel for a second. Let your mind stop racing. Let your heart speak louder than your to-do list. This life you're living, was it built from truth, or just survival? Was it crafted from your joy, or your fear? And when's the last time you asked yourself, what do I actually want? Not what's expected, not what's applauded, but what's real. You're not lazy. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're just waking up in a system that profits off your disconnection. But now that you're awake, what are you going to do with that truth? Will you go back to sleep? Or will you start again? From soul, from stillness, from self. This is not the end. This is the returning. When was the last time you felt proud of yourself for something that wasn't productive? When was the last time you celebrated who you are instead of what you do? What if your exhaustion isn't from lack of sleep, but from constantly performing? Performing competence, performing happiness, performing like you're fine when you're really falling apart. You wake up tired even after 8 hours. You move through your day like a ghost, not because you're broken, but because you're split in half. The real you buried under the roles you keep playing. High achiever, peacekeeper, caregiver, perfectionist. All masks, all cages. You weren't born to be everything for everyone. But somewhere along the way, you got the message that your needs come last, that your softness is a threat, that your anger is dangerous, that your desires are too much. So you shrink, you dim, you disappear, and call it being responsible, call it being mature, call it being a good person. But what if being good is killing you? What if being polite is making you bitter? What if being dependable is why you don't even recognize yourself anymore? You don't need another productivity hack. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. and do cold plunges. You need to stop lying to yourself about what you really want. You need to stop abandoning the parts of you that don't fit into someone else's version of success. Because success without peace is failure in slow motion. Because doing more is not the same as being more. Because you deserve a life that doesn't require you to disappear to feel safe. So pause. Not because you've earned it, but because you exist. Because that's enough. Rest isn't a break from your life. It's how you reclaim it. You want to know why you're tired. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're finally waking up from the trance of who you were told to be. And it's scary. And it's lonely. But it's also sacred. This ache you feel. This heaviness. It's not just fatigue. It's the weight of your truth asking to be heard. Let it speak. Let it shake the lies loose. Let it burn down what you built in fear. So you can finally build something real. Something soft. Something that breathes. Something that looks like you. You're not tired because you're broken. You're tired because you're brave enough to feel again. And that's the beginning of everything. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do I keep chasing things that don't fill me? Why do I keep showing up to a life that doesn't see me? Why do I keep playing a role I don't even believe in anymore? You call it ambition, but it feels more like survival. You call it drive, but it feels more like running. Running from silence, from stillness, from yourself. You're not building a life. You're building a mask. And every day you wear it, you disappear a little more. Success used to feel like freedom. Now it just feels like pressure. Another bar to reach. Another version of yourself to impress. Another moment where joy is postponed. Again, you tell yourself, just a little more. Just one more goal. Just one more win. But peace keeps getting pushed to the end of the line. And in the quiet moments, you feel it. The ache, the emptiness, the question that never goes away. Is this all there is? You scroll past lives that look more alive than yours. People who seem lit from the inside. And you wonder, what did they figure out that I haven't? What do they have that I don't? But maybe it's not about what they have. Maybe it's about what they've let go of. The pretending, the proving, the perfection. Maybe the most successful thing you'll ever do is stop betraying yourself. You think you're behind. But behind what? A timeline that was never yours. A version of life curated for likes and claps. You're not late. You're just lost in the noise. And underneath all that noise is a whisper, a pull, a memory of who you were before the world told you who to be. Listen to it. Let it hurt. Let it break the rhythm of the race. Because maybe healing isn't becoming something new. Maybe it's unbecoming what you never were. Strip it all back. The roles, the rules, the rewards, and ask yourself, who am I without all of it? If you don't know the answer, that's okay. That's honest. That's real. You're not empty. You're just full of things that don't belong to you. And that's the beginning of clarity. So stop running, stand still, let the exhaustion catch up to you, let the tears come, let the numbness crack. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open, and there's a difference. One leads to endings, the other to beginning again. Not with a bang, not with a 10-step plan, but with a breath, a pause, a choice. To build a life that feels like you even if no one claps for it, even if it scares people, even if it's quiet. You're not too late, you're right on time for yourself. When did it become normal? To feel guilty for resting. To feel ashamed for wanting ease. To treat softness like a sin. You weren't born this way. You learned it. You learned that worth has to be earned. That rest is laziness. That your body is a machine. And you owe the world your constant output. But machines break. And you're not a machine. You feel. You ache. You burn out. And no one teaches you what to do when that happens. They just hand you more advice. More routines. More systems to squeeze more out of you. But what if the answer isn't more? What if it's less? What if healing begins where hustle ends? You keep trying to push through. But some things can't be pushed. They can only be held, felt, witnessed. Your pain isn't the problem. Your pace is. Your guilt is. Your expectations are. Who told you that your value comes from doing? Who convinced you that slowing down is failure? This world doesn't reward softness. It exploits it. It drains it. Then calls it weak when it finally collapses. But maybe breaking down isn't weakness. Maybe it's a message, a sacred invitation to come back to yourself, to your breath, to your heart, to the quiet knowing that you were never meant to survive your own life just to impress others. You were meant to feel, to rest, to play, to heal, to love without proving, to live without performing. So let go of the guilt. Let go of the grind. Let go of the story that tells you your only value is your productivity. You're not here to be useful. You're here to be real. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is stop, not because you're broken, but because you're finally ready to be whole. You're not lazy. You're just done pretending you don't have limits. And that's not failure. That's freedom. Have you ever wondered why you feel so heavy, even when nothing is going wrong? Even when everything looks fine from the outside? Why rest doesn't restore you? Why sleep doesn't touch the ache? It's because you're carrying what you were never meant to hold. Not just tasks and to-do lists, but expectations, unspoken rules, inherited guilt. You're not tired from work. You're tired from worth, from trying to prove you belong here, trying to earn the right to breathe easy, to take up space, to feel joy without guilt. You've been trained to keep going, even when your body whispers, even when your mind begs, even when your spirit breaks, and still you smile, you show up, you perform, like your exhaustion is a flaw you have to hide, like your burnout is a badge of honor. But deep down, you know something isn't right. You weren't built for this pace. You weren't born to be a machine. You were meant to feel, to move slow, to sit in the sun and laugh for no reason, to weep when your heart breaks, to dance when the music hits. But that part of you got buried, under metrics, under milestones, under mindless scrolling. And now you're here, trying to remember who you were, before you got so good at being what they wanted. You think you're weak for needing a break. But maybe the real strength is in saying, enough, enough pretending you're fine, enough shrinking to fit someone else's frame, enough measuring your life in output. You are not a product. You are a person, and people need pauses, need room to breathe, need space to fall apart and come back together. So if all you did today was survive, that counts. If all you did today was not give up, that matters. Because somewhere beneath the noise, there's still a you that remembers how to feel alive, that still believes in slow mornings, in deep conversations, in meaning over motion. Start there, not with fixing, but with feeling, not with chasing, but with choosing to come home to yourself, piece by piece, breath by breath. This isn't failure. This is return. Have you ever felt like your body is screaming but no one hears it? Not even you. You wake up tired, move through the day like a shadow, crash at night and call it rest. But your soul knows better. You don't need another productivity hack. You need peace. Not the kind you earn, the kind you remember, because you weren't born burned out. You were born in rhythm, with your breath, with the sun, with silence. But now silence feels like failure. Rest feels like weakness. Stillness feels like wasting time. You tell yourself you're lazy, but deep down you know, you're just tired of pretending you're not tired. Tired of smiling when you're sinking. Tired of carrying what no one sees. And the cruel part is, you're good at it. Good at coping. Good at hiding it. Good at looking fine while falling apart. But that's not strength. That's survival. And survival isn't living. You weren't made to constantly prove your worth. You weren't made to earn love by exhaustion. You weren't made to suffer just to belong. So why do you keep apologizing for needing rest? Why do you feel guilty for having limits? Why do you keep calling burnout a badge of honor? Maybe because no one ever showed you what real strength looks like. Not pushing through, but pulling back. Not being everything, but being enough. Rest isn't a reward. It's a right. And you don't have to earn it. You just have to remember it. So take the nap. Turn off the noise. Let the dishes wait. Let the inbox pile up. Let the world spin without you. because it will. And when you come back, it'll still be here. But you'll be more here too. More whole, more grounded, more honest. And maybe that's the version of you've been running toward all along. Not the one who does more, but the one who needs less. Less pressure, less pretending, less pushing, more breath, more slowness, more you. You're not lazy, you're listening. And finally, you're hearing yourself again. What if the reason you can't stay consistent isn't because you're weak, or undisciplined, or unmotivated? What if it's because you're tired of performing, tired of doing things that look good, but don't feel good, tired of becoming the version of you that gets the praise, but loses the peace? You keep trying to discipline your way into alignment, but discipline without direction is just punishment. And maybe you're not lazy, you're just over it. Over the constant pressure to be better. Over the chase. Over the hustle that never lets you rest. You don't need another productivity hack. You need permission to stop, to feel, to figure out what you actually want. Because there's a big difference between being unmotivated and being uninspired. You think you need to push harder, but maybe you need to slow down. You think you need to do more, but maybe you need to feel more. You've built a life that keeps you busy, but not alive, and you've called that normal. You set goals because you think you should, not because they mean anything to you. You follow routines because someone told you it works, but it doesn't work for you. You're not broken, you're just not connected to your own why. You're not behind, you're just off track, because the track you're on isn't yours. So what if, instead of pushing through, you paused and listened to what your body's been trying to tell you, to what your heart's been whispering, to what your soul's been aching for? Not another deadline, not another trophy, not another applause, but rest, but honesty, but something that finally feels like home. What if consistency isn't about always showing up for the task, but about always showing up for yourself? And the version of you that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Start there, stay there, build from there, because the world has enough people who look successful. It needs more people who feel whole. Have you ever looked around and felt like everyone else got the manual, except you, like they all know what they're doing, and you're just winging it, smiling through confusion, nodding through doubt? You wake up and wonder, why does this life feel like it doesn't fit? Like you're playing a part, reading from a script you didn't write, trying to make the words sound true. You were told, success looks like this, happiness looks like that, and you tried. You really did. But somewhere along the way, you stopped asking what it looks like for you. You're not lazy. You're lost in translation, trying to decode a language that was never yours, trying to thrive in a world that rewards pretending more than presence. No one told you that it's okay to not want what everyone else wants, that it's okay to question the path, to pause mid-run and say, wait, where am I even going? Because speed doesn't mean progress. Achievement doesn't mean alignment. And burnout doesn't mean you're built strong. It means you've been carrying too much for too long. The world doesn't slow down for you, so you think slowing down means falling behind. But what if slowing down is the only way to catch up? To your soul, to the part of you that's been whispering, hey, I miss us. The part of you that used to dream without shame, play without purpose, love without fear. That part isn't gone. It's buried under layers of doing, of proving, of trying to be what they said was enough. But enough was never supposed to be a number, or a title, or a finish line. It was supposed to be a feeling, a knowing, a quiet yes. When you look in the mirror and see yourself, not your performance. So if you feel off track, maybe you're just off someone else's track. And maybe that's exactly where your truth lives. This is not a crisis. It's a crossroads. Not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. You're not failing at life. You're just finally questioning the version that was handed to you. And That's the first step to building one that's yours. Fully. Finally. Yours. What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you're lazy, but because you're meant to go a different way? What if the resistance you feel is wisdom in disguise, saying not this, not here, not like this? You keep trying to force it, to fit into a shape that hurts you, to keep pace with a life that never waited for your yes. But your soul is louder now. It's not letting you fake it like you used to. You can't hustle your way through what needs to be healed. You can't schedule your way around the ache. And maybe that's not weakness. Maybe that's truth. You were told to keep climbing. But no one asked if the ladder was leaning on the right wall. You were told to push through. But no one noticed the wall wasn't yours to begin with. So now you're here. Not broken. Just breaking open. Cracking the shell of who you were told to be. So who you really are can finally breathe. It's terrifying. It's tender. But it's real. And that's what makes it sacred. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stop lying to yourself. About what hurts. About what's hollow. About what you're holding that was never yours. Lay it down. Even just for a moment. The pressure. The pretending. The plans. Feel your feet on the ground. Your chest rising. Your heart still beating. You're still here. And maybe that's the point. Not to win. Not to prove. But to be. Fully. Honestly. Unapologetically. Here. Because this moment. This breath. This truth. Is enough. And so are you.